going on, everybody? It's your buddy, it's your pal Spaz Phoenix, the YWC Reality Check. And I don't say that with the typical amount of gusto because it's a very mixed day, isn't it? I'm recording this on Thursday, the whatever the hell it is, 21st of September. Probably go out tomorrow morning, I don't know. Depends how long it takes me to record and how awake I am to actually get it up there to you guys. There's a couple things going on in the world of wrestling, in the world of WWE right now. The one major one, which is a bummer, and a couple other ones that I want to talk about first. Now, why would I bother talking about anything else when what everybody's talking about is at the front of most people's minds? Well, I don't really have a very good explanation for that, other than look at how I treat the Saudi Arabia shows. I know there's a lot of political conversation and a lot of upheaval and a lot of negativity that goes into those shows, but I can put that to one side and I can look at the TV show that they give me in front of me and I can talk about that show. If, I hate to use the really, really lazy comparison here, but if AEW announced that Kenny Omega was going to face Daniel Bryan in the main event of Wrestle Dream, which is the thing that they have coming up soon, but Wrestle Dream got moved to Saudi Arabia, there would be all the political upheaval and the uneasy feelings and all of that would go into it, but you could still look at the other side of that and say, hey, you know what, I bet Bryan Danielson versus Kenny Omega is going to be a pretty good match. Let me tell you, I saw Kenny Omega versus Will Ospreay. If they did that again in Saudi Arabia, I wouldn't... the one wouldn't affect the other, is what I'm trying to say, and I'm doing a really poor job of that. So what I am saying to you guys is I want to talk about a couple of other things before we talk about the big thing, because the couple of things I want to talk about ahead of time are going to affect what happens on my TV. And I know that sounds crass, and I know that sounds callous, and I know that sounds probably kind of heartless, but that is the way that this channel has gone for the most part. Now there's the exceptions, obviously, but we're going to talk about the stuff that affects our week-to-week television programming first, and then we're going to talk about some pretty negative stuff that affects people's real lives afterwards. Number one, and I wish the bad stuff wasn't here because I'd be a lot more excited about this. You guys have heard me say for a while now with the pay-per-view previews and all that kind of thing. I, for one thing, like the Saturday pay-per-views because it just makes the weekend feel a little bit different, and it gives you a day to sort of set in on the effects of the pay-per-view before we roll right into Monday Night Raw. I came around to it. I wasn't always a favor of it because I thought, oh, it's going to chop up your weekend, but it does serve a purpose, and it is pretty cool. The other thing that I like is the international shows. Number one reason is because you get it in front of a different audience that hardly ever gets a big, quality spotlight put on it. The other part of that being is I get to experience that audience. Third thing is I get a pay-per-view in the afternoon, or I get a pay-per-view while I'm eating my lunch. And again, that's one of those things that I used to think was really weird, really strange, whatever. When they did Beast in the East, way, way, way back in the day, when they did the NXT UK takeovers that were on, obviously, UK time, I was like, oh, this is kind of a bummer, this is kind of a pain in the ass. But the more they've done them, and they've done a few, like they do the Saudi shows, they did Money in the Bank in the UK, and they've got what we're going to talk about now. It ain't half bad. Get the pay-per-view in and out of your system, spend the rest of your day doing whatever, or hopping on YouTube like I do, checking out, what Walt Culture has to say about it, what, Heel Steven has to say about it, what Good Mike Work has to say about it. Go check out Good Mike Work. He's a very, very good catalog for all things wrestling, as is What Culture, as is, Steve and the boys over at, what the heck is their channel? Around the Point. But yeah, it allows more time for that, and it's just a little bit different. And if you're not going to do that, it gives you the rest. Get up, eat lunch, watch your pay-per-view, and have the rest of your day. So I've really been getting, really been wrapping my head around all of that, and I do like it. And pulling away from the cliche Sunday night is pay-per-view night thing. It took me a long time to warm up to it, but I like it. So, when we get the announcement, when we got the hints earlier on in the week that there was an announcement coming from Australia, and then eventually that announcement was that Australia is going to host, they're going to host the Elimination Chamber, I thought that's really cool. First of all, it's a recognizable gimmick. It's got a little extra to it. It's not like a Fastlane or a Payback, which have been good pay-per-views, by the way, Backlash as well. And you know what? This is gonna be super boring for you guys because I lost a link. And you guys are going to have to wait while I do computer things, and I'm sure that is super boring for you guys, and I really apologize because hey, there we go. It's going to be in Perth, Australia, and it's going to be at the Optus Stadium in Perth, Australia, which is, I'm guessing, in Australia. Now, when we get to something later on in the pod, we are going to talk about, I don't even know how to pronounce it, the Optus Stadium in Perth, Western Australia. Anyways, be that as it may. Not only is it a big stadium, from what I've seen, not only is it a recognizable gimmick pay-per-view, which is something else that I'm going to talk about in a second, you're making them part of the road to WrestleMania as well. Because we know the Elimination Chamber is like the stopgap. You know, it used to be Royal Rumble sets your tone right towards WrestleMania, but now there's a stopgap because there's 2 championships, and you know, if Cody doesn't win one, he's going to win the other, and I'm not even doing that today. It's not the day for me to do things like that. But huge stadium, huge attendance, huge population that usually doesn't get a spotlight on them like this. When was Super Showdown? Back in like the 20-something teens? Like, was the last time they did anything cool in Australia when they put the title on Buddy Murphy? And they haven't been to Australia in so long, Buddy Murphy had to go to the B show? Like, that's just not cool. But like I said, repeating myself now, huge stadium, huge audience, huge gimmick recognizable pay-per-view like the Elimination Chamber, and you are being made to feel you are part of the road to WrestleMania. That hits every note, doesn't it? And I think if it's in Australia, that means I got to get up at like 7 in the morning to watch it. That's cool. I'll do what I did when they did Super Showdown. I will get up, I will watch the show, I will go back to bed. No problem with that whatsoever. Really, really cool. I know they had, obviously, Rhea Ripley down there doing a lot of pub publicity, newscasts, interviews, that type of thing. If there was a press conference, I'm sure she was at the press conference. I didn't go seek it out or anything like that. But that's really cool. And I do like, maybe I'm making this up in my own head, I do like the international shows. We did Chamber in Montreal, we did Backlash in Puerto Rico, we did Money in the Bank in London, England. We're doing this in Australia. We do the Saudi shows, whether you like them, whether you don't like them. And I like that when we do them, we're not only giving them a pay-per-view, we're not going to give them a big 4. The announcement of WrestleMania coming to the UK, I still think is a pipe dream. There's even rumors out there that John Cena went off script with that, so we'll see where that goes. I don't think you're necessarily going to give them a big 4, but you give them a recognizable key point of the year or key gimmick. What do I mean by that? Saudi Arabia has had the Elimination Chamber. Saudi Arabia had, it wasn't the Royal Rumble, but they had their own Royal Rumble, Titus World Slide, and all that sort of thing. As I say, go back to UK, got to host Money in the Bank. It's a little something extra. Not only are we giving you a pay-per-view, but we're giving you this pay-per-view thing that, maybe Elimination Chamber is not everybody's cup of tea. Absolutely fine. Was the Elimination Chamber match the most important thing that happened in Montreal? Fuck no. It was Sami Zayn getting screwed out of beating Roman Reigns so that we could, get everybody's hopes up for Cody Rhodes, because God bless Cody Rhodes, we must all bow down to Cody Rhodes. But if you are somebody that likes that, if you are somebody that likes a ladder match, and you hear that it's TLC that's coming to your city, maybe you're driven twice to go watch that show. Now, I don't think you need twice a drive to go to a pay-per-view in Australia to say that it's going to be the Elimination Chamber, because, as I say, go back like more than 5 years, the last time they did anything like this scope in Australia. Super good. Super, really, really looking forward to it. Australian fans I've seen here and there. The Australian population within WWE is well, you had the Iconics. You had Emma, who we're going to talk about in a second. But you've got, what the hell is his name? I talk about him all the time. Grayson Waller, who's good. You've got Indy Hartwell, who's there. You've got Rhea Ripley, who is arguably the biggest rise... Notice the key word I'm using here. The biggest key rising star in the company. Rhea Ripley has to be in the main event at that show. Rhea Ripley versus somebody. I've fantasy booked already. You guys know this. Go back. There's a podcast on it. I have fantasy booked that it should be Rhea Ripley versus Shayna Baszler at WrestleMania, because that was the headline of the episode of NXT that beat AEW Dynamite. We don't need to talk about it. But a lot of other people want to see Rhea Ripley versus Becky Lynch. I wouldn't mind that. A lot of people, annoyingly, want to see Rhea Ripley versus Bianca Belair, and if we have to do that, get it out of the way in Australia and get it out of everybody's system. But Rhea Ripley has to main event that show. I don't care if you're Roman. I don't care if you're Seth. I don't care if you're Asuka, Io. I don't care if you're Charlotte. I like Charlotte, but I don't care if you're Charlotte. Rhea Ripley should main event that show. She just should. I think it's great. I think the show is going to be fantastic. I'm excited about it. Anything, like I say, time-wise, getting used to the daytime shows, getting used to the Saturday shows. I'm pretty sure it's a Saturday. Let's just go down the thing. Yeah, Saturday, February 24th, 2024, at the, let me say it again, Opus Stadium in Western Australia. I'm reading that on the Emma story. That's sad. We're going to talk about that momentarily. Something else that's happening. TV deals. Oh my god, the TV deals. Wrestling doesn't survive without TV. Pro wrestling as a whole, WWE, AEW, Impact. Well, we see what not having TV exposure does to Impact, but that's another story for another day. Vince McMahon held the whole company hostage, told them he wouldn't sign any new TV deals until we got the TKO thing through, and blah 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 blah. The company shouldn't make so much money from their TV deals, but clearly the TV networks that are buying their product think the product is worth that much, and how dare a successful company make money? Isn't that the mentality we have in 2023? How dare you be successful and make money? You must be evil. SmackDown. After that big long ramble, it's tired in here, and it's not the happiest news day. Sorry. Sarcasm's going to be on 10 today. SmackDown in the year 2024 will be moving to the USA Network to the tune of, what was it, $1.4 billion or some nonsense like that. Part of this deal, and it's overseen by NBC Universal. Now, here's where I get hazy. Here's where I don't really understand all of this network also owns this network, also owns this network. Now, I know that WWE Network is now on Peacock if you live in the States. I live in Canada. I still have the WWE Network as it was, so I'm not quite as impacted by the Peacock thing. I don't know. I know that the Peacock thing is part of the deal. They've had Raw, they've had NXT, as is clearly evident by all the crossover between between Raw and NXT, which has been really good. Becky Lynch is the NXT Women's Champion. Dominic Mysterio is the NXT North American Champion. We just had Rhea Ripley there not too long ago. The Judgment Day has been there. AJ Styles has gone down there. Seth Rollins has gone down there. The rest of the Judgment Day has gone down there. And why is that such an easy thing to do? Why is there no problems with exclusivity and all that sort of thing? Because they're on the same network. And I mean, that doesn't matter to me. Again, I don't watch USA Network. I watch it on Sportsnet 360 because, once again, I live in Canada. There's a big portion of the TV rights deals thing that is kind of amusing to me and anybody not in the States, because whether it's on TSN, whether it's on TBS, whether it's on TNT, whether it's on Fox, whether it's on The Score, whether it's on whatever, up here it's on Sportsnet 360 for me. So it's not going to change for me. But apparently this new deal is a fuck ton of money. USA Network wants SmackDown. They've got SmackDown. SmackDown will be pulled from Fox sometime in 2024. And this deal also includes 4 primetime specials that will be aired on NBC, which is cool, which is, I think they said it's the first time in like 10 years that NBC itself has had any live WWE programming in primetime. That's kind of cool. I don't know what those primetime specials are going to be, if I'm perfectly honest with you. I don't know whether they're going to be, I'm going to use AEW as an example. AEW just had Grand Slam, and we recklessly concussed Jon Moxley, and I think we did something to Adam Cole's leg, so let's not use them as an example too much. But they do stuff like Fyter Fest, like Fight for the Fallen, like what was it, the First Dance, like Grand Slam, where it's a little more than a regular episode of Dynamite, a regular episode of Rampage. Rampage this Friday, as you guys are listening to this, is going to be 2 hours. It's a special show. It's not your weekly stuff. If they're going to do something like this for NBC 4 times a year to bring more NBC viewers over to USA, more people to watch WWE, that's really cool. I really like that. And once again, it's one of those, I just want to know what that's going to look like. Yes, oh, well, it's just a content farm. They're just cranking out more content. Well, they're getting paid to crank out more content. They're going to make more content. And content creators going to content create. That's what it is. There's a reason that Raw is 3 hours. Nobody likes that Raw is 3 hours. Nobody. Except for the people putting ads on those 3 hours. Now, what I find interesting as well is that Raw and SmackDown on the USA Network are coming to the end of their contract. So the relationship between WWE and USA Network for as it pertains to Raw and NXT is coming to an end. But USA Network are high in the running to get that contract back. But there's other interested players in play. Now, 2 of them that get mentioned everywhere. They were mentioned, you know, they get mentioned every time there's TV talks. They get mentioned every time there was a buyout. They get mentioned every time there's, you know, this, that, and the next. We're going to create something here. We're going to create something there. And that's Amazon Prime and Disney Plus, I should say. Now, I have Disney Plus, and somebody else in this house has Amazon Prime. So if it's going to be on there, that's cool. Again, much like the NBC 4 times a year specials, I don't know what that looks like, and I have to go back to it once again. And I know you guys get sick of me hammering over the head that I'm speaking from a Canadian perspective, but it has to be said. I don't use Peacock. I use the WWE Network. Now, the other half of that is WWE Network has never been an app up here. It's never been a login up here. It's never been a go to the website and try to cast it to your TV, even though I can. WWE Network is a television channel up here in Canada. If you're on Rogers, like me, it's channel 528. 528, boom, there's WrestleMania. I have never had to go to a streaming service to consume my WWE content. Now, is that going to change what the content is? Absolutely not. But again, for me, from the interesting perspective, I'm excited I'm not excited because, oh my god, this is going to be amazing. I'm excited in the way of, is that going to be amazing? Is it not? I don't know. Am I going to walk around watching Monday Night Raw on my phone? Maybe. Who knows? Who knows what it's going to look like? The other thing about this, and there's not very much other conversation about NXT, because let's be real. If nobody wants NXT, which could happen, NXT could go back to the WWE Network where it was born, and maybe we can go back to classic black and gold, skulls and crossbones, rock and roll, Triple H NXT, which I would secretly like. The other part about this is, depending on the other interested parties, if it's not USA, if it is a streaming service like Amazon or Disney, I think somebody mentioned ESPN at some point. I don't know a thing about how ESPN runs and who they're associated with, so I'm not going to delve in on that. But there's been lots of speculation that Monday Night Raw could be off of Monday nights. Now, again, let's look at SmackDown. SmackDown's on Friday right now. I have watched SmackDown on a Tuesday. I have watched SmackDown on a Thursday. There was a very brief period of time where SmackDown was taped on a Tuesday and it played for most of the world on a Thursday, but because of TV scheduling up here, we got to watch that recording on Wednesday. So I was actually watching SmackDown a day before everybody else. It didn't last very long, but it was really funny to sort of not be behind the 8 ball for once. Now, when I say behind the 8 ball, wrestling companies as a whole, when AEW came around, before I realized what fuckwads they were going to be, and they announced, hey, we're going to have a weekly show, it's going to be called Dynamite, it's going to be on TNT, TBS. Cool. Where am I going to watch it in Canada? I threw out a text. The week of the first Dynamite, I threw out a text, or a tweet rather. It was a tweet back then, it wasn't an X back then. And it was Michael Hamflett of What Culture, who is not Canadian, who's on the other side of the fucking globe, who happened to respond to me with a, oh yeah, by the way, here's a link about where it's going to show in Canada, all the information. Turned out they were going to play it on TSN. Absolutely fine. But whenever there's something new, something different, something's changed, something brand new comes along, it's really said, No offense to my American friends, but it is really told, and all the announcements are really made from an American perspective, and we sort of find out where we can fall in line at the last minute. So getting SmackDown on a Wednesday, when the rest of the world, it felt like, was getting it on a Thursday, it was a cool, nice, neat little thing. I had a brief series on this channel called The Fights on Wednesday Night, and it was just a combined NXT SmackDown show because you could watch both. You could go to the WWE Network and watch NXT, and that'll give you a time frame for when it was. And then you could watch SmackDown, and it was pretty good. It didn't last very long because that situation didn't last very long. I don't know. I don't know what I want out of this. If SmackDown's going to stay on Friday, it's just going to be moved over to the USA Network, then it's not going to affect me at all because it'll probably still stay on Sportsnet 360 up here in Canada. If it moves from USA to Fox, and Fox wants the other show now or whatever, it'll probably be the same kind of thing. The bigger difference for me will be if it moves to a streaming service, because that'll be brand new, or if Monday Night Raw, which has always been on Monday, except for Thursday Raw Thursday, which is like 20 years ago or some shit, that will sort of break the way we look at things. That will be the next big... Actually, I would go out on a line and say that's bigger than pay-per-views not being on Sunday. Because Monday Night Raw being Monday Night Raw has been going for like 30 years or some shit. So, I don't know. SmackDown, cool, they got more money. I don't care. WWE, TKO, collect your bag. Don't care. You guys making more money does not affect me, and I'm not going to call you a villain because you are a successful business. I'm not an asshole. Raw, NXT, like I say, if they're doing a lot more NXT stuff on Raw, if they end up amalgamating the shows, that'll be weird. Tony D and Stacks showing up on Raw and going up against like Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens would be weird. I don't know. Let me know. Where do you want Raw to end up? How do you feel about the SmackDown thing? How do you feel about Elimination Chamber in Australia? Now, the Elimination Chamber announcement I just read on Twitter from WWE's Twitter. Sorry, my voice is getting dry. Didn't expect to be doing this tonight. Probably won't be doing a WWE this week, because I'm doing this instead and covering potentially some more serious stuff. Elimination Chamber, I read about on X directly from WWE. All this stuff about all the networks and the TV deals and whatever, I'm pulling from a combination of NoDQ.com and What Culture Wrestling. As I am for what we have to talk about next. We have the merger, we have TKO, we're getting rid of redundancies, which is a really terrifying sounding thought. There's been lots and lots and lots of people in the office that we will never know the names of, which is super sad, that have already been let go, including Dana Warrior. Now, when the announcement of Dana Warrior being let go from the company was made, a whole lot of people were really terrible to her. I don't understand that one. She comes out once a year and hands out an award at the I was going to say the Emmys, at the WWE Hall of Fame, and the rest of the time, what does she do? She does like outreach and charity shit. I think she tried being part of creative, and I don't know how far that went. I don't know. I don't care. Oh, she's only there because of her husband. Okay, cool. Vicky Guerrero. What do you want me to say? But then it went from a drip to a trickle to an absolute waterfall. We got the releases, or we got 2 sets of announcements of releases. I'm going to go through the names. I'm going to go through some posts that have been made by some of the wrestlers that were picked up on by NoDQ. I didn't aggregate this. I'm sourcing from them, so all credit to NoDQ.com. And then I'm going to give you my own thoughts on a couple of things and what else I think about the releases in general. Because here's the thing. I'm on the fence about all of them, as I usually am, and I've got one of those opinions that kind of pisses off everybody. I'm not completely for the company, because people losing their jobs sucks. I'm not entirely for people that weren't doing anything and weren't being given anything creatively, acting like they're incredibly surprised that they were in the cuts. Don't really back that either. I know that makes me unpopular. That's fine. I'm okay with that. Now, The one thing that I absolutely love is the conspiracy theory from the other side that says WWE held off the announcement of all their cuts until today because they knew Grand Slam was going to be really good and they wanted to steal the headlines that were going to be made the next day. Well, it turns out that the headlines the next day were Tony Khan's an idiot and he's dancing while his wrestlers are getting concussed. There's your headline from Grand Slam. So the rest of you with your conspiracy shit can fuck off. It's not the time for that. With the passing of Bray Wyatt, I should have come up and done a proper chat on here when Bray Wyatt passed away, but I didn't know what to say. I didn't know how to put that into words, and I still kind of don't. I might do it, and it'll be super late, and I really don't care. When that happened, people immediately started going through his career, and, oh, WWE fucked up here and fucked up there. You can have those conversations, but, like, time and place is a thing. Time and place is a thing. Coming out with this, with these WWE releases and immediately saying, oh, WWE held off on firing all these people so that they could steal the headlines from AEW. If that was the case, and it's still retarded, but if that was the case, would they not have done it the day after All In? You know, their grand extravaganza, their grand accomplishment that was fake, by the way. 72 is not 81. Just like 81 is not 93. Just saying. Jesus Christ. I'm getting pissed off about this now because people, like, we're talking about real people here. Anyways, so we got the first run of releases. The first two releases that I saw were Mustafa Ali, which got an individual news output from What Culture saw that. And then shortly after that, because it tied into the Australia announcement, there was a post that was shared around by Emma as well. But Mustafa Ali, Emma, Aaliyah, Top Dollar, Riddick Moss, Rick Boogs, Elias, Shelton Benjamin, and fuck me, man, Dolph Ziggler. So let's go. Let's do some reactions online first, because their voices, I don't want to sound corny as shit, but their voices mean more than mine. Shelton Benjamin was pretty classy about the whole thing. I've been released from my WWE contract. I want to thank the WWE staff, talent, and of course the fans for everything. Something ends and a new chapter begins. Looking forward to my next chapter. Very, very sort of milquetoast. Hey guys, this is what's happened. Let's see what's going on next. Very, very classy, which goes along with everything I've ever heard about Shelton Benjamin, which isn't that much to be fair. Riddick Moss seems like he's having a little bit of fun with it, and as somebody who copes with things through humor, through sarcasm, I kind of get that. I can respect that as well. He says, well, I did it. At Riddick Moss, I guess his real name's Mike Rallis. I did not know that. At Riddick Moss, well, I did it. I've graduated from WWE. I know a lot of people think my career took a downturn once Mr. Levesque took over, but in actuality, my per-match fee skyrocketed through the roof. Other promoters better get ready to back up the Brinks truck. That's fun. That's, you know, putting a smile on a bad situation. That's cool. Mustafa Ali came out very briefly to say, I'm no longer with WWE. I look forward to the future. Thank you, Adil. Adil being Adil Alam is Mustafa Ali's real name. He came back later on with a correction because his first tweet had said, I am longer with WWE, which I guess a lot of people thought meant that he was extending his time in WWE, but he says, no, I am no longer with WWE. Sorry for the confusion. This was the first one that came out. Boozer Wrestling, according to NoDQ.com, put out a tweet that said there are rumblings that there will be some talent cuts today in WWE, unfortunately, and shortly after that was Mustafa Ali's announcement. The one that I'm kind of bummed about, and the one that is a real punch in the gut, if you watch Emma on Twitter, I guess we should say Tennille Dashwood now, when they made their announcement about the Elimination Chamber being in Perth, Australia, if you look at the bottom of the picture graphic, I've used it as the thumbnail for this as well. Under the Western Australia, I guess, coat of arms, there's a slogan there that says "Walking on a Dream." I don't know whether that's their like tourism slogan. I don't know whether that's like something like a motto of Australia. I don't know very much about Australia other than Australian wrestlers kick ass, but. Anyways, Western Australia, Walking on a Dream, and she retweeted that poster, and it says this, you know, basically it just says, a dream, at WWE, promoting the event. And then she quote tweeted herself saying, "Oops, never mind, I just got released. I'm no longer with WWE." That sucks. That really sucks. And she hasn't been there that long either, which is kind of a bummer. It's her and Riddick Moss, who I believe are not married yet, but engaged. If you follow Tennille Dashwood on social media, which I do, because she's a pretty cool social media follow, they just put up a bunch of pictures from their engagement. I don't know whether that's like, hey, I'm putting up these pictures today because they happened today, or they happened 6 months ago and I just got around to putting up pictures today. But there is kind of a weird thing about a couple being let go, because you don't want either of them to be let go. Obviously, you don't want one household to be hit by loss twice. That kind of sucks. But from the social, mental health point of view, you don't want to have one of them still working because that person feels guilty, the other one feels envious. There becomes a gap that way. The one that is still working, do they go to work and get pissed off because their partner, you don't want to be in an AJ Lee CM Punk situation where AJ Lee was going to work and having the fans chant CM Punk at her because they're dicks. So I have to, in a roundabout way, I don't really know how to say what I'm saying here, but in a roundabout way, them being let go together might have some unforeseen advantages. Tennille Dashwood had a really good relationship with Impact Wrestling before she came back to WWE. Possibly she could revisit that. Tennille Dashwood, if she wants to try her hand at AEW, then cool, she'd be an asset. AEW is not known for utilizing their female roster to its fullest extent. I mean, they've still got Ember Moon / Athena, toiling away in ROH, trying to make that title worth something. I don't know. The Emma thing, I don't know. I really don't, because they just brought her back recently. She was one of the ones that came back under the, Triple H has taken over and all your favorites are coming back, and, Karrion Kross and Bray Wyatt, rest in peace and all that kind of thing. And Emma came back and Tegan Nox came back. Tegan Nox is somebody that everybody, I hope WWE takes notice, because Tegan Nox is one of those people, along with Candice LeRae, Johnny Gargano, and a small handful of others, that have just said, they better not be letting her go, they better not be letting her go, they better not be letting her go, to the point that Tegan Nox has been trending most, at least in my feed, Tegan Nox has been trending most of the day. So I hope WWE takes notice of that, and A, doesn't get rid of her, but also B, does something with her. You are on the cusp, and I don't want to take away from Emma losing her job, but I'll use this as a jumping off point for the Tegan Nox thing. You are on the cusp of breaking up Damage Control, which is neither here nor there. Io Sky and Bayley will survive on their own. Dakota Kai coming back from her injury. The whole story between Dakota Kai and Tegan Nox is the injuries that they've both had, the injuries that they've caused each other. Please get out your NXT history books, and once these ladies are both healthy, get them in a feud, elevate both of them. Dakota Kai kind of comes off as a sort of a sidekick character. Dakota Kai comes off right now in WWE the way that Ruby Soho is coming off in AEW right now. No company in that regard is more or less guilty than the other one. So let's fix that up. Okay, we've dumped a couple of people, so Twitter has come back and said, okay, you've already dumped these people that we like, you better not get rid of X, Y, and Z. Now is the time to get your social media analysis team, whatever the fuck you've got going on in the back there, go through, see who's trending, see who people want to not lose their job, but also who people want to see more of, is all I can say. Sorry, that all branched off of the Emma announcement. Aaliyah has come and gone a couple of times, and I don't think that they saw anything in her, which is just a bummer. Top Dollar was treated like a joke on the main roster. I think it speaks volumes that Top Dollar has been let go, but as of yet, Ashanti the Adonis and B-Fab have not. Riddick Moss goes with the Emma thing I just talked about. Rick Boogs was an act that, they put him out there and said, this is his act, and then nothing happened, and then he got injured, and then he came back with Nakamura, and now Nakamura is a heel on a different brand, so what's he gonna do? Elias is kind of the same way. A lot of people have said that Rick Boogs could have been a manager or a backstage person or host like a WWE Network special of some description. Be the new handsome Doc Hendricks or something like that. I could see that. But if you're a wrestler that wants to wrestle, then you're a wrestler that wants to wrestle. Elias, the same thing. They did those vignettes where he said, you know, Elias is dead, long live Elias. And then they did the Ezekiel thing. In his last tweet, he actually admitted that I played my own little brother. So the illusion of Ezekiel is gone. Him having to come out in a fake beard and be Elias and then be Ezekiel again made my head hurt. Shelton Benjamin, he was a surprise when he came back the first time. I hate to say it like that. The guy's amazingly talented. A lot of people have pointed this out about him and one other person, but it's like, he's an amazing athlete. The team of him and Cedric Alexander were an amazing team, even if you were using them as an enhancement team. If you can't use him in the ring, at least pick his brain backstage. At least let him go down to NXT and train with those guys and give them some different ideas. You know, if you don't necessarily work out with this coach, why don't you try working out with Shelton Benjamin? Like, it's not everybody's cup of tea, but let him try a producer role. Let him try a creative type of role. Unless he didn't want that. If he didn't want that, if they said, we don't have anything for you in ring right now, but do you want to spread your wings and do something else? And he said no, that's a different story. That is a different story. And you could say that for any one of them. Mustafa Ali is a weird case. Mustafa Ali has done a lot of really weird shit. There was the period of time where he was coming out with all the light up stuff and he kind of looked like Iron Man and they were trying to make him like a superhero babyface, but not in a corny way. Obviously there's Retribution. He was doing some stuff in NXT. Most people realize the ridiculousness of he's supposed to fight for the North American Championship in like 10 days at No Mercy. So who's Dominic gonna face? But maybe that's why they set up the Dominic and Dragon Lee thing on Raw this week. If they do a surprise, it'll be great for Dragon Lee, don't get me wrong. Dragon Lee goes up to the big leagues to fight Dominic Mysterio to get his title, to bring it back to his brand. That's a cool story. Don't get me wrong. You didn't need to do it just because you were about to fire Mustafa Ali. But again, here's my point. And they did the real life stuff as well, like his story and his struggles before coming to WWE, his time as a cop. I always found it really weird that when they did him talking about his life as a cop, I think in Chicago, I could be wrong, somebody correct me down in the box below, and so many people reacted to that, well, being a cop doesn't make you a good person. And I'm like, well, you're that kind of person. I'm not gonna go down that road, but like, it's one thing to shit on a creative decision. It's another thing when that creative decision is to use a little bit of somebody's real life and you turn around and use that as a reason why it's okay to shit on that person's real life, especially when they choose a profession like a police officer. Sorry, you're an asshole. You are an asshole. That's all I've got. But again, he asked for his release more than once and he was quite vocal about it, so I don't know. Did he finally get it? Did he finally get what he wanted? As far as people that want it, the Grizzled Young Veterans were let go or are in the process of being let go. They were very vocal about wanting to go for a long time and they were told no. So if they're being let go now, nothing's been said about them that I've read. But there was a rumor about a week ago that they had already been let go. So if that's the case, then yeah, cool. Like, that's one of those stories that's not sad because they got what they wanted. So Mustafa Ali is up in the air. Emma for sure has somewhere else to go if she chooses to. Aaliyah, I really don't know. I liked Aaliyah a lot. You know, yeah, smiley, cheesy, babyface, but we need a couple of those on our roster. Top Dollar was a lot of fun. I don't care what anybody says. Most people don't like him because he took a shot at the Young Bucks' shoes. And those people can also fuck off, as I flip my fingers off to nobody because this is an audio platform. Rick Boogs and Elias are guys that were kind of stuck in gimmicks that didn't have a forever time frame, which is unfortunate, but the people that liked them would have been bummed if they weren't doing the gimmick that they liked. So I don't know how you play with that. Shelton Benjamin, I've already given you my thoughts on. 20-year WWE veteran, and yes, I'm saying veteran, Dolph Ziggler. I don't know. I really don't know. Now, again, big rumors that he's wanted to do some stuff with his brother for a while, and even though that means going to the B company, if that's what he wants and that's what's going to make him happy, apparently the two of them and the Guns are really close friends. So do we want to see the Nemeths versus the Guns on AEW? Sure, cool, fine. If for that reason you asked for your release and you got it, cool, 20-year career. Dolph Ziggler has a career that should have gotten a goodbye, if that's the case. I don't want to put him on the same category as Edge, because Edge has gone through in his career a lot different. He's gone down a lot different path. He almost broke his neck. He came back from that, which was monstrous, and came back and had a second run, and we don't know what he's doing now. He got to say goodbye, or he got to have a goodbye moment in Toronto. I was there. It was wonderful. Dolph Ziggler's got the kind of career where if you're going to let him go, give him a microphone for 5 minutes and let him say goodbye to the fans. I don't care if you think that's an overreaction on my part. I really don't. I really don't. If he goes to AEW, AEW better recognize what they have, because WWE clearly doesn't. What have they done with him, other than make him a jobber? The last cool thing that he did, and I'm sorry, it's got to do with the USA crossover with NXT stuff, he went down to NXT and he worked with Braun Breaker. He could have stayed there for a bit. He could have stayed there for a bit. He could have gone and done, like I said, with Shelton Benjamin, train with some people. He could have done that. It was fine. But that was the first. That was the first sort of run of releases, and then they said, "Oh, come on back around 5. Check your news feeds around 5 because there's going to be another round, and this was going to be the NXT people." And here's where I get maybe a little heartless once again, but it's like. They weren't really doing anything. Ulyssa Leon is a body to make up the bodies. She's an opponent for a debuting talent to squash. She's one more body for a battle royal, all that kind of thing. I haven't seen enough of her. And I know I've sat through Ulyssa Leon matches. It was her and Valentina Feroz, which were two women on the roster that I think they made, honest to God, I think they made them a tag team because they didn't have anything else to do with them. And then as a tag team, they sat in the back and did nothing. They were in the background of the locker room while other people were having arguments. Like they were used as that kind of filler. I wouldn't be surprised if Valentina Feroz is the next name we hear. As I'm recording this, since I've already broken the seal on doing this once, I'm going to do it again. See if we have any more releases. Nope. The last round we got is the round I'm talking about right now. So Ulyssa Leon, Dabba-Kato. Sorry, but they were using him as Big Show. Now I don't know what else he would go do. I really don't. Do they need another monster on Impact? Maybe. Do I want to see Dabba-Kato versus like Black Taurus or somebody like that? Maybe somebody else in AEW. Maybe he goes over to Japan because big guys go over to Japan and they Godzilla around for a little while. I really don't know, and I don't mean that in a derogatory way. Before somebody comes up and gives me some shit. Quincy Elliott was let go, and of course that stirred up an entirely different collection of people on the internet. It's like, oh well, you know how WWE is and they're phobic and all that sort of thing, and he's a little flamboyant and all this kind of thing, and he's the quintessential diva, whatever. And it's like anytime you want to say, oh, WWE would never do anything, alternative or what's the word? What's the word I'm looking for? Flamboyant, and there's another word that I can't think of right now. This is the company that created Goldust. This is the company right now that has Pretty Deadly. They're not. It's not a woke thing, but they're not shy about flamboyant characters. They're just not. I don't know. I don't even want to go down that ridiculous woke social media rabbit hole, because I think to do so, it takes the attention off of the people that we should be talking about right now, which are the people that have just lost their jobs. But I think that argument is so fucking ridiculous. Here's a bunch of people that are having a really sad day, but this one is extra sad because we've ticked this box or that box. For what it's worth, the 3 or 4 times that I saw Quincy Elliott, I was like, alright, could be fun. Haven't seen very much. Like I say, squash matches once again. But the same thing goes for Shanky. Shanky was Jinder Mahal's sidekick. And when Veer went with Sangha, and Jinder had one sidekick, and it was Shanky, it was more like Jinder Mahal trying desperately to do some cool character stuff, and this really awkward dude standing behind him. I don't know. Don't want to see the guy lose his job again, like I say. But what did he do? What did he do? The Maximum Male Models, yeah, you kind of had to know that was dead already. Max Dupree is back being LA Knight, now, for the betterment of everybody. And Maxine Dupree is managing the Alpha Academy for reasons. And I shouldn't say for reasons. I like Maxine Dupree. I like the whole Alpha Academy. Chad Gable's actually got a rocket on him a little bit right now, which is cool. But you took out both of the Maxes. You don't have the 2 Maxes. You don't have Maximum Male Models. Dio Madden, the guy that ended up being Mace in Retribution before becoming Mass A, dude's built like a brick shithouse. Just let him go out there and be a powerhouse. That could have been a lot of fun. That guy could have, like, smashed into each other with guys like Karrion Kross or Braun Strowman if Braun Strowman wasn't injured. Or that could have been cool. And Mansoor, again, I know this is controversial because nobody likes the Saudi shows, but Mansoor was like their John Cena. Like, here's a guy who's only ever going to have a hometown moment if WWE does something terrible like do a show in Saudi Arabia. Guess what? If you're a wrestler, I hope nothing bad ever happens in your town, because then you never get to have a hometown moment ever again. And the guy was a good wrestler. I pushed for years. Or not, I shouldn't say for years, but I pushed for what felt like ages. Mansoor and Mustafa Ali could have been a ridiculous tag team, and not for the reasons that you think I'm saying that. I mean, the way they wrestled, the style they wrestled, the charisma they had between the two of them when they wrestled against each other. They had that brief period of time where Mustafa Ali was playing sort of like the asshole character and trying to manipulate Mansoor into being like his partner, but like sidekick and whatever. Like, Mansoor was a likable character. They showed him in Saudi Arabia a couple of times, and then they threw him on NXT with no explanation. And when they put him with Mustafa Ali was being a dick. Everybody wanted to cheer for Mustafa Ali, except for the weirdos out there that think you're bad if you're a policeman. Can't help you guys. You guys are weird. Your parents should have spanked you more or something. Mansoor and Mustafa Ali could have been a cool tag team. They could have had wicked matches with, like, the Street Profits and the New Day and Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn and the Usos and all those teams. It could have been cool. It could have been short term. They could have helped launch each other, and then they both could have gone, mid-card titles, whatever. Do I think either one of them... Okay, I'll be realistic. Do I think either one of them was ever going to main event WrestleMania? Probably not. Do I think either one of them was ever going to pick up a world title? Probably not. But the history, the annals of wrestling history are littered with great talents that we remember that never were world champions. It's not the be-all and end-all. Nobody's going to doubt the historic legacy of, the Legion of Doom, because neither one of them was ever a world champion. It's a ridiculous argument. I'm going to stop using the other word, but it's a ridiculous argument that, if they're not going to be a world champion one day, then they shouldn't even be here. No, that's a false right there. And again, kind of like Dolph Ziggler in the first half, the second half, the one that sort of punched me in the gut a little bit. And again, most people are going to disagree. 10 years in WWE, Dana Brooke, and she's never been the center of anything super huge. She had her own protege going on NXT, for those of you that don't watch NXT that didn't know, but she was sort of turning heel on the protege and on the NXT women's roster in general, and kind of just starting to do something cool. But Dana Brooke is always there. She was always there to get squashed by anybody that needed a squash match. Anybody that's ever been interviewed ever said the same thing about Dana Brooke. Like, she would be there, she would be helping the crew, she would be helping, you know, spit ideas to anybody that would listen, you know, that cliche, the first one in, the last one out type of thing. Everything you hear about Dana Brooke makes you, even if she never got, like, treated like a star, which she didn't. The last time I remember her getting focus was in the original NXT, when they did a little bit of a highlight on her because she was in the Arnold Classic, and then she came on to an episode of NXT the next night, and they really focused on her for like 3 weeks, which was a bummer. It's just, I know. I started this podcast with like, oh, I'm just gonna stay focused on what I see on my TV screen. But you know what? People like Dana Brooke, people like Dolph Ziggler, people like Emma, people like Mustafa Ali, who were not the main event, but at some point, if somebody else was the main event, they had a match with Mustafa Ali. At some point, if somebody was the main event, they had a match with Shelton Benjamin. At some point, if somebody was the main event, they had a match with Dolph Ziggler. At some point, if somebody was a main eventer in the female division, they had a match with Dana Brooke. It was probably a 2-second squash, and she got in nothing. But these are the ones that have been the steps to the ones that reached the top. You know, you get to the top step by step. One of those steps, Shelton Benjamin. One of those steps, Dolph Ziggler. One of those steps, Mustafa Ali. One of those steps, Emma. One of those steps, Dana Brooke. They were a tag team at one point, were they not? I don't remember. But it sucks. It all sucks. And I'm not comparing each story to the next because one is more sad than the other. I'm comparing each to the next because I'm trying to hammer home the fact that these are human beings that have human stories, and this is going to hit every single one of them absolutely differently. If I'm going to say it again. If there's a couple people on this list that wanted their release, then it's probably not a good day, because you're still leaving, and you're still leaving a lot of friends and coworkers and a comfortable working situation behind. But it's a progressive day for some people. It's a day that a lot of people have wanted for some people, perhaps. In the cases of like a Mustafa Ali, like I say, I've referenced off the top of my head, the Grizzled Young Veterans, etc. It could be a cool day for them. I don't know. I don't know whether they wanted it. I don't know whether they desperately wanted to stay. I couldn't tell you. The thing of it is, though, is the discourse about the releases, as sad as they are, and that's the first and foremost thing. The first and foremost thing is it's a sad day that we get a sweep like this, and we might get another one before the end of the week. Maybe I'll be doing another podcast in a day or two. The immediate thing is, oh, WWE's making so much money, how could they fire anybody? Here's a bit of a train for you. WWE let these guys go because they weren't on television, because they weren't being used, because they weren't serving a purpose at the time. Because a company has money. If I go to work all day and I sit in the lunchroom for 8 hours, should my company pay me? No. Now, should my company give me something to do so that I can earn that paycheck and go home? Yes. If there's no work to do, they're going to send me home. This is the grandiose show business version of that. Like, you know, what's his name? Colt Cabana used to have those sketches on YouTube that were like, creative has nothing for you. But if creative has nothing for you, then you're going home. Well, creative should have something for them. Okay. So every single person on the roster needs to have something to do. Every single person on the roster needs to be focused on. First of all, you're going to have 30 hours of television a week if you do that. You're going to have the 8-hour WrestleManias that everybody complained about if you do that. And if everybody gets featured equally, nobody's a star, nobody's a champion, nobody's a main eventer. I'm sorry, but it's just true. It's not a truth that people want to talk about, but it is true. Now, the other side of that coin is we do have NXT and we do have the NIL program. In the past year and a half, they've announced two new sets of classes in that NIL system, which is 2 new sets of classes of people that are waiting for their turn to get to NXT. Now, with that, you get a crowded NXT roster, but you also have a roster that includes Carmelo Hayes, who should be on the main roster, Dragon Lee, who should be on the main roster, Roxanne Perez, who should be on the main roster. I'm sorry, Kiana James, Tiffany Stratton, who should be on the main roster. The Creed brothers, who should be on the main roster. So you can make room for all those NIL people. But where do they go? They go to Raw and SmackDown, which already didn't have space for the people that you were letting go here. Oh, and by the way, people on Twitter, people who are trying to guide everybody's future, they have to make room for people like Jade Cargill, who is apparently vital to WWE, which is absolute nonsense. We have to make room for, if Ricky Starks ever leaves AEW, then WWE better sign him. They're stupid if they don't. There's a bottleneck. And with a bottleneck, you're gonna have to relieve that pressure at some point. If you want, I'm sorry, but this is the way it is. If you want Jade Cargill, that's gonna cost you a Dana Brooke. If you want, I want Deonna Purrazzo. I want Deonna Purrazzo in the WWE more than anybody else I can really think of, because there's people in AEW that I would like to come back, and that's a different conversation. But if I want somebody brand new to come over to make the switch, so to speak, I would love Deonna Purrazzo to come to the WWE. But I have to know in my own head that if I get Deonna Purrazzo, that might cost me an Emma. I would love to see Darby Allin in WWE. But you know what? If we get Darby Allin, that might cost us an Elias. I would love to, one of the rumors is that Wardlow isn't happy in AEW. I don't know whether that's true, just a rumor that I've read. We get a Wardlow, that might cost us a Dabba-Kato. And now that's just the one for one. That's just the one for one. That's not the people that were hoping to come back, like Randy Orton, who was seen at the Performance Center, who, might be coming back, might be this, that, the next thing, right? Somebody wanted Nia Jax back. Oh, well, she's a bad wrestler and she's pretty dangerous and tends to hurt a lot of people. She hurt 2 people on her return. But, the banter level that she brings, and it's kind of funny because we can laugh at her. Well, if that's what you want, and that's why you want Nia Jax might have cost you an Aaliyah. Like, you do have to look at that. And I'm not saying you have to suddenly love the company. I'm not saying that, a big, massive conglomerate, TKO now, apparently worth $21 billion, good for them. I'm not saying that you have to love them for having to make these hard decisions, but these are hard decisions that do have to be made. It is. I'm sorry. Now, does it bum me out that some of these people, like I say, I'm going to go through the ones that I would have kept: Mustafa Ali, Emma, Shelton Benjamin, Dolph Ziggler, Dana Brooke. Out of these, the rest of them, I couldn't really make a defense for. I'm sorry, that's just my opinion. Please do not take it as gospel. But if I want to hold on to those, on the other side of the coin, we had to make room for Jade Cargill, Nia Jax, and Wardlow. If I look over into the AEW camp, I see guys, like I said a Darby Allin or a Wardlow. Personally, I said sign CM Punk. I don't care. I know that's a controversial conversation. That's a controversial conversation to have for another time. But CM Punk coming back would be huge. It would take up a lot of time, it would take up a lot of space, and it would take up, TV minutes. I would love to see Daniel Garcia, like I say, Ricky Starks. One of the cooler matches on Grand Slam, Jericho versus Sammy Guevara. I'd love to see somebody like a Sammy Guevara in WWE, but that is going to cost somebody else their spot. And I'm not talking about, WWE can't hire all of them because they don't have any money. I'm talking about literal minutes that people are willing to watch in their weekly wrestling television. Right now, how many people do you know who would take a 2-hour Monday Night Raw if they could? Right now, how many people do you know who wish NXT never went past an hour? Now, NXT was an uninterrupted hour because it used to be on the WWE Network. It's a slightly different conversation, I know. But if you make a 1-hour NXT and a 2-hour Monday Night Raw, you're cutting 2 hours of time. So either you're cutting some people, which is what we're talking about today, or everybody has a 5-second match. Is it great? No. It's not fantastic at all. It's a shit situation. I hope the people that got let go were people that wanted to be let go. I hope the people that want to be let go aren't still sitting in catering. That's the other thing that I hope for. I hope the people that were let go that didn't necessarily want to be let go land on their feet, do something else, whatever the case may be. I know Dolph Ziggler is doing TV stuff. Mustafa Ali has all the skill set that comes with being a pro wrestler and all the skill set that comes from being an ex-cop. I'm sure he will find himself something. Some of the other ones, I don't know. I don't know. A Dana Brooke could show up on Impact very easily. Emma could go back to Impact. Aaliyah, Aaliyah or Emma could get signed by AEW. I don't know. I'm rambling at this particular point. It all sucks. Don't get me wrong. It all sucks. But if I can say one nice thing, Impact Wrestling went through some doldrums for a long time. Now, they don't have a TV deal, but they've got their cult following that they've always had. I don't watch it myself, but I hear a lot of good things about MLW. AEW is technically 2 companies and deals with some other ones, so maybe there's some bridges that can be made there. AEW itself also does exist. It's, as much as WWE is still the market leader and probably always will be, it is not the only game in town anymore. And that provides, like I say, it provides hope for a lot of people. And I hope everybody's okay. If I can end it on the most obvious sentiment possible, I hope everybody's okay. And I hope I've somewhat put some thoughts together for you guys tonight. This was really on the fly. I took 5 or 6 notes and pulled up some tabs from No DQ, so I'm probably missing a lot of information. Please tell me what you think about the releases. If there's somebody you really love on this list, and I'm sure there's a lot of people that love some of the people on these lists, put a comment down in the box below or hit me up on X at Spaz Phoenix. Who do you like? Who are you going to miss the most? Where do you hope they end up next? But I also do, in the dark times of all of this, I hope we can look at some of the other stuff that's coming as well. There's other people coming to WWE. There's changes coming to WWE. We're going to Australia next year. That could be fun for somebody. What do you want them to do with the TV stuff? I want to know your guys' opinion on that as well. Would you watch Monday Night Raw on Amazon? Would you watch it on Disney Plus? Are you going to be like me and absolutely nothing's changed about your Friday? Would you watch? Here's the question for you, and here's, I said I was done with the podcast, but I'm going to be done after this. How many of you are like me and are at least a little bit curious as to what would happen if Monday Night Raw became Wednesday Night Raw? Hope you guys are all doing okay. Hope everybody I've just mentioned on this list lands on their feet. I've been Spaz, your YWC Reality Check. Subscribe up there, talk down there, start a conversation. Keep all of these conversations going. Don't be a stranger. I will talk to each and every last one of you later, but for right now, I am tired.